Hello everyone on YouTube. This video is going to tell you how to cure AIDS and any disease. It don't matter if it's AIDS, HIV, cancer, arthritis. When I was locked up in Southern California, I met this gay guy that had AIDS. And at the time, the first time I was around him, he was without his AIDS medication for 3 months. And then we got separated, and then we got put back together in a different pod. And then he was 5 months without his AIDS medication. And I noticed that he didn't die by being 5 months without his AIDS medication. And in all actuality, he actually looked more healthy the second time I saw him, and the longer that he was without his AIDS medication. There is a book called Quacks by Fred Dungan. I didn't buy that book, but I read the description of that book, and it says that doctors will push pills onto you, that will usually make your condition worse and suppress your immune system. And then, when you get more sick, they'll keep on piling on more and more medication. So it was the AIDS medication, I believe, and I'm sure other smart people would agree too, that the AIDS medication was fucking that guy up. There is a book called The Cure for All Diseases by Dr. Hulda Clark. The Cure for HIV/AIDS by Dr. Hulda Clark, if I recall that right, which I'm pretty sure that's right. And there's the book called God Helps Those Who Help Themselves. That's where I found out about Hansa water, which is the literal fountain of youth. There's books that will talk about different categories of foods and how they interact with your blood type. Like, for instance, I'm a blood type O positive, and in this book by Peter D. Adamo, it's called, Lord help me to remember what it's called, Eat Right for Your Type. There's like 3 or 4 categories of foods. Beneficial foods, foods to avoid, foods to allow frequently, and there might be one other category in there. There's a smaller book than that one called Aging, Fight It with the Blood Type Diet. And in there, it lists a new category of foods known as super beneficial foods. And according to that author, Peter D. Adamo, the reason why that category is called super beneficial is because it's capable of fighting off diseases. Okay, and there are 2 different books by the same author. One is called The Holy Movement. The second one is called The Holy Movement #2, Regeneration, if I remember that accurately. And those books were written by someone named Deborah Lee Meehan. Her website is called colonixlady.com or thecolonixlady.com. And she will tell you that it takes 15 days of cleansing out what's known as mucoid plaque out of your digestive system. It takes 15 days of cleansing your body for every year of your age. Now, she kind of seems to teach how to do that intermittently, at least 5 days in a row of consecutive cleaning. I would just do it in one single shot. How it was done according to the Dead Sea Scrolls, where she got her knowledge from. Now, there are these things called fasting retreats, where you can pay others to supervise you doing, like, say, a 40-day water fast. I called one up in a fasting retreat in Sedona, Arizona, and I asked the lady who answered the phone, how much would it cost to have a supervised water fast done at your fasting retreat? And she said something to the effect of, it takes $239 that you have to pay per day, and it takes 10 days to prepare for that, and 15 days to recover from that. And so she said that would run around $16,000 and something dollars. And then I called her a few months later, or like a couple years later or something, and I asked her about it again, and she said that you can prepare for the fast on your own, do the 40-day water fast, and then it would take you like 20 days. She changed it up from 15 to now all of a sudden it takes 20 days to recover from it. And but you could do this on your own if you have the confidence to do it on your own. I would recommend that you own your own property. Buy like a cheap house through tax lien investing, or buy a cheap piece of land. Buy one of those land selling companies such as classiccountryland.com or landmodo.com. I would not recommend renting a place and trying to do that fast, because your landlord could probably walk in on you anytime he wants. But if you own the property, if you're making payments on it, can't nobody just go on your property and do what they want. Okay, there's a book called Pulling Your Own Strings by Wayne Dyer, which also talks about how to avoid being victimized by others. So when you do this fast on your own, you can save all kinds of money doing it on your own. Now, I think it was in one of Deborah Lee Meehan's books where I read 98% of all diseases can be cured by cleansing the body. Something to that effect, if I recall that right. It was either in one of her books or somewhere where I read that. And one time I had appendicitis, and I went to 2 different hospitals, got the same input from multiple doctors that I had appendicitis. And the second hospital that I went to, I asked to talk to a Pentecostal chaplain. They said they didn't have a Pentecostal chaplain. So I asked if I can call a Pentecostal church to ask them to pray for me. And so they gave me the phone book. I looked up a Pentecostal church, and this secretary answered the phone first time I called, and I asked her to pray for me. And so we prayed, and then I carried on traveling. I went from one of those towns in northern Indiana further west into Chicago. Or first I went to to Davenport, Iowa. I bought some black prune juice. Or let me back up here for a second, because in the town where I went to the first hospital, I went to the library to try to see if I could find that book, Eat Right for Your Type, talking about blood types. And I found that book called Aging, Fight It with a Blood Type Diet. That book is thinner and has a smaller surface area than that book called Eat Right for Your Type. And that's where I found out about super beneficial foods for blood type O's. I got one of those notes piece of paper and wrote down a few super beneficial things for blood type O's. And so I took my last bit of money. I had a train ticket or a Greyhound bus ticket. Went to Davenport, Iowa. Iowa is just west of Illinois, where Chicago is. And then I went back to Chicago to the rode in on the Greyhound bus. And went to the Amtrak train station. And on the way to the Greyhound bus station, I noticed the bus rode by a Whole Foods health food store. And then once I got off at the Greyhound bus station, I went from there to the Amtrak station, and I was gonna wait over there. No. I called 911 for help to get to a homeless shelter, and it took them around 2 hours to show up or something. But while I was waiting, somebody comes out of nowhere and starts to talk to me, and he says he asked me, am I traveling on the Amtrak and whatnot? And I say yeah, and I told him that I have a one night's worth of a layover there in Chicago. And he asked me if I wanted to stay at his place overnight, and I was like, no, that's okay. And but then we exchanged maybe like a few more words, and then he was like, well, in any case, I feel that I should help you out in some way, and he gave me $15. And so when the police picked me up to take me to the homeless shelter, on the way there, we passed by the Whole Foods health food store again. And so what happened is that it was just a straight shot on this one street. The same road that connected the shelter to the Whole Foods health food store. Probably even the Greyhound bus station too. But want to make sure that I'm accurate with my facts. If I'm not completely sure, I'll try to say that I'm not completely sure and whatnot. But so basically, the following day I went to the health food store. I got super beneficial fluids, drinks, and solid foods that were super beneficial for blood type O's. And I fasted for like around like 17 days is when the pain in my right side subsided. And once that happened, I went back to eating solid foods again, which were also super beneficial. And so I very thoroughly know how much doctors are quacks. Gaslighting, an aspect of that is to claim something to be true over and over again, so that way somebody's more likely to believe your bullshit BS. Don't ever believe no quacks BS, because that's all it is. Thank you so much. Bye for now.